welcome to our webinar, okay? Alcohol coercion, what's love got to do with it? I hope everybody's having a good evening. I'm so excited for tonight. It's gonna be a great webinar. Just some housekeeping rules. One thing you guys can do is if you have a question, you can go ahead and choose the Q&A section in the Zoom. If you look down, it should be at the bottom of the screen. If you want to have an anonymous question, we also have a chat where that's going to have your name. And if you guys want to just join that, that's also okay. So I'm going to move on to our icebreakers. So first icebreaker for the evening. If you were a celebrity, which one would you be? Drop it in the chat so we can get to know each other. I can tell you, if I could be any celebrity, it'd be Rihanna, especially after her performance yesterday. Okay. People say I look like her too. So, you know, it's just easy. Let me see some answers. I know some of my friends are up on there. Any of our MAD members, who would you be as a celebrity? Ooh, Beyonce. Okay. Queen B. I love it. I love it. You know, I loved Beyonce before Rihanna, and then Rihanna came out and I was like, I'm sorry, Beyonce. You gotta go. Who else? Yes, Queen B. Zendaya. Yes. Oh my goodness. You know, I just watched her performance for the what was it, like Sing Off or something, or Lip Sync. Really, really good. She's an amazing actress. She's about to take over. Love it. Who else do we got? I know I see some names in there on the Zoom. I don't want to have to call anybody out, but give me some answers. We also have a question that's what your favorite snack. So if that one is easier for you, drop that one in there. What is your favorite snack? Mine is Cool Ranch Doritos. That is one thing I will always have in my cabinet is Cool Ranch Doritos. The family size, because me, I'm my own family. I have a lot. Okay, Kimberly said she would be Adam Sandler. That's a good one. Adam Sandler's hilarious, and he seems like he lives the most simple life for a celebrity. Good one. Really enjoy that. And he has the best movies, to be honest. Who else do we got? You know, my snacks, they vary. They vary. I really snack on candy, and I don't feel like that's not like a version of a snack that you can count, but I have a candy problem, everybody. I really love gummies and cherry sours. Okay, that's all right. That's all right. So I know you guys have these great answers, and it's okay that we can't get them on the chat. That's all right. Okay, but think about these. Okay, if you want to throw it in the Q&A just as a answer, and I'll answer it. Awesome. That's totally fine too. Oh, it looks like it's fixed. Oh, Georgina's on. Georgina said she would be J-Lo. That's a good one. Now that I'm thinking about Super Bowl, her halftime performance was fantastic. Her and Shakira. Oh my goodness. Queens. Queens, queens, queens. All right, now let me see some answers. If you were a celebrity, which one would you be? Or what is your favorite snack? Don't worry, I'll wait. Or does anybody have any weird snacks they like to eat? Like, I really like hot Cheetos and cream cheese. It's actually really good. Ice cream. Okay, Larissa. Hey, girl. Ice cream is good. Ooh, Georgina likes Snickers. That is actually my favorite chocolate bar. I don't want anything else but a Snickers. Hot Cheetos and cream cheese. You understand, Brianna. You understand. Yes, can never go wrong with ice cream. That is so true. But yeah, if anybody hasn't tried the hot Cheetos and cream cheese, you guys are missing out on mine. Okay. Anybody else? What else do we have? Oh, you know what? A question I like to ask, hot Cheetos or Takis? Hot Cheetos or Takis? That's a really good debate. Okay. I'm a hot Cheetos person myself. Hot Cheetos. Okay, exactly. Takis all day. Hot Cheetos for life. Hot Cheetos. I'm loving these answers. Yes. Keep them going. Hot Cheetos. Wow. I got a squad with me. That feels good. That feels good. All right, everybody, let's keep moving forward. If you guys still have them, yes, Team Takis. Vanity, okay, you are on Team Takis. That's fine. I forgive you. All right, but if you guys still have those answers, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We would still love it, but let's get moving, okay? So we want to introduce our speakers for the day. So we have Victoria Placentia. I said that completely wrong, and I'm so sorry. Victoria has worked in the violence prevention and domestic violence field. She hopes to continue her work in empowering youth and adults in creating healthier, safer, and thriving communities. And then we'll have speaker Karen Glaspie. Karen has worked with a diverse population in the past. She is an accomplished and experienced counselor who acquired a degree in forensic psychology and currently is working on her doctorates in clinical psychology. So I'll pass it on over to you, Victoria.
Hey, thank you so much, Saleh. I appreciate the introduction. Hey, everyone. We're so glad to have you on with us today. Hopefully we're just going to have such a fun time, and then also just to be empowered at the end, for sure, leaving with some tokens. I'm really pleased to be joined with Karen. And so we've been collaborating on this for a while. We've been really looking forward to it. So thank you for being with us. I'm going to, let's see, what do we have in store for us? So we do have a couple activities ready, so make sure to get your phone ready to scan some QR codes. And then we also, that's going to be a way we can kind of interact off of just the chat. And then what we have laid out in front of you right now is just kind of what to expect for our time with us today. We're going to go over some red flags of controlling relationships and look at some examples of what that looks like in real life. And then we're going to go end it with some positive things. So we're going to end it on positive, healthy relationship behaviors and friendship behaviors too, right? So whether we're single as a Pringle or like in a situationship or with someone long-term, these are all very applicable. We can always improve on ourselves as well. And then how to state boundaries. So we all need help with this, not just, I know this is for teens and young adults, but let me tell you, it's a whole work in progress. Your whole life, you're trying to work on how to state boundaries and stick to that, whether that's with family members, people you care about, your partner, A, B, and C, the list goes on and on. So I'm going to also let you know that one of the topics that is going to be coming up is sexual assault and harassment, but we will give you a content warning before switching to that slide. Before I hand it over to Karen, we're going to also have more of a detailed topic of what kind of red or green flags in relationships that you've noticed in TV shows or movies that you've been watching. And you can drop this in the chat again, just like the warm-up question, or you can, I think, leave it in the question in A if that's not working for you. And I know You Season 4 came out, so we have a lot to unpack with that. It is entertaining, but it definitely shows controlling aspects and stalking as well. So yeah, isolating you from your friends, absolutely. That's going to be something we chat about today. Oh yeah, so one of our colleagues already said, mentions You Season 4. Controlling, yes, Kimberly, thank you. A lot of red flags can tie into controlling aspects, and then green flags can be like understanding, working on it together, taking on things more as a team, right? That feels good. Being very manipulative. Yeah, thank you, Luz. That's a really good one too. Not a good one, but you know what I mean. It's a good example to bring up when it's for a red flag, right? Very manipulative. Awesome. Thank you, Luz. We got some really good answers. All right, and feel free to share, just like how we did with our warm-up question. You're able to just keep on sharing. It won't disappear. We're able to look at it back. So feel free to keep sharing. Some examples in case you're stuck is even though Rue has a lot of personal issues to work on and like dealing with addiction, right? She should probably just stay single for a little bit and get the support that she needs, right? But they do build their friendship and they do look out for each other. David and Patrick, they have such a fun relationship, easygoing. There's no pressure to be somebody else, very accepting of each other and just unconditional love. And that is a show called Schitt's Creek on Netflix. And then Malika and Isaac from Good Trouble. I don't know if you recognize them, but the Good Trouble show is a spinoff from The Fosters. Very supportive of each other's needs, desires, and their dreams. They both have different passions too. I think both of them align with like the arts. And then I think one of them wants to go in a different career path and they support each other through that. Phil and Claire from Modern Family, the sharing responsibilities, taking it on as a team. And then Lena and Steph from the Fosters, an example of just handing conflict head on with each other again, and really good of just like affirming each other and grounding each other as well. Anybody, any other comments from the couples that you see on the screen right now? Okay, so Brianna looks like they love good trouble. Yeah, I do too. Oh, yep, Jim and Pam, we can't forget that. Being able to communicate without yelling. Yes, Larissa, thank you. And even if there is conflict, right? Because there's always going to be conflict, even in healthy friendships and healthy relationships, but being able to maintain that ground respect with each other, and being able to get through that with together, you know, it's a difference between if someone's coming at you very disrespectful and not caring about your boundaries, then that would be probably time to think about leaving that person and breaking up with them for sure, if they're not able to take you seriously or take healthy conflict seriously. All right, thank you, Larissa. We're going to move on to some examples of controlling relationships. Chuck and Blair from Gossip Girl, where do you start? That could be a whole different webinar, so we're not going to spend too much time on them. Obviously, Joe and Love as well, very toxic, very hopefully unrealistic, but very toxic things going on from the both of them. Maddie and Nate being super controlling, super jealous, super possessive, physically abusive, verbally abusive, and the list goes on with him as well. And then I don't know if this is still in our time era, but Edward and Bella, it is not safe for your partner to just randomly show up in your bedroom without announcing or without asking for consent to go into your safe space. Also without her legal guardians knowing as well, right? So making sure that that is not normal. Alrighty. And then I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the lovely Karen to chat about some red flags. So we have over here, now that we have media exposure on what that looks like in TVs and shows, we're going to break it down and ground it for you in real life. And then Karen, I believe you're muted.
Of course, that would help, right? Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Glad to be here. Sorry, I have a little cold, so excuse me. So before we do get started with the red flags, I just wanted to give the definition of coercion, because it seems like it's poorly misunderstood. It's poorly misunderstood. So I just want to give the definition of it. So it's actually persuading someone to do something by using force or threats. So like an example of coercion is, say, for example, a bully may demand money from you, from a student, and they refuse to, and it results in the student getting beaten up, right? Because they don't want to give you the money. Okay, so that's an example of coercion. So if anyone has any question about it, go ahead and feel free to ask. And if not, we'll just go ahead and move on to the red flags. So of course, we have red flags that has to do with coercion, and some of it is isolation from friends, family, and or hobbies. Another one would be invasion of boundaries and or privacy, extreme possessiveness, patterns of lost tempers, gaslighting, or manipulating. We know a lot of people like to manipulate to get what they want. Any questions about the red flags, or what's some other red flags that you can think of? Go ahead and move on. So of course, coercion is persuading, like I just mentioned, persuading someone by using force, threats, or compulsion, making them feel like they owe them. It can be hot or cold, giving any extreme compliments as a way to control you, pressuring you to drink or smoking, right? I don't know how many people or how many of you feel that you've ever had this done to you where you're being forced into doing something that you don't want to do, like drinking or smoking? That's one of the main ones too. Go ahead to the next slide.
Okay, so if we're honing down more on like alcohol coercion, right? So coercion can be tied to many different situations in life, but if we're focusing specifically on alcohol coercion, so this can be persuading somebody to do something, including like consumption of alcohol and drugs, and someone pressuring you to do that, even though if that's something that you care about, into not doing that for your health reasons, or because you don't want to get in trouble, or protecting your body, protecting your organs, protecting your brain. This is something that should be respected. And if someone truly cares about you, they would want your best interest, right? So they would want you to have a long, healthy life, and they would not want to pressure you in doing these things. It can also be extremely expensive if you get caught up with the law. It can be extremely traumatic, and really just stay on your record. And so to avoid all that, right, you can stand on your boundaries and make sure that you're respecting your own boundaries, right? Because that's a huge step to do that. Some examples of coercion can be like downplaying the drugs or downplaying alcohol, saying it's not even that bad, you can just do it, or you don't really care for me if you're not going to do this with me. Maybe like talking down to that person, making them feel inadequate just because they don't feel comfortable doing the same things as you are, or these people are more fun to be around because they do A, B, and C with me instead of you being boring, right? Obviously, you're not a boring person. So making sure that to try to keep in mind that there are ways where people can try to get in your own head to, disrespect your own boundaries, or making someone feel inadequate because of a personal choice, or talking down to you. Okay, so whether it's alcohol coercion or coercion in a different way, there's ways that we can respond to this. So, oh wait, let's see. The first one is actually things that people can say. So we want to make sure that we can hear and notice it, because in real life, it's not as easy, right? So in a workshop, we're realizing, okay, this is pretty easy to realize, this is healthy, this is unhealthy. But in real life, there can feel like there's gray areas of not knowing if this person has ill intentions or not. So some of the ways that coercion can sound like is, weed makes me drive more focused. Would you rather have me drive like a crazy person, and like putting that gaslight on you of saying like, okay, well, I drive like this way, but without it, I can do this instead, right? So there's a lot to unpack in that comment, right? It's disrespecting you. It's also putting you in an unsafe position. And your safety is number one for sure. So why do you hang out with them? They probably think you're annoying anyways, getting talked down to, right? That's where we see that. Why are you wearing that? It makes you look ugly. So any kind of negative comments on your body or you as a person, why do you think someone might want to talk down on that person, right? It all goes back to power and control. When we're there, just take a drink if someone offers you. Don't look stupid. Again, a lot of talking down on somebody to make that person do what the other person wants. Why would it matter if you're only 1 hour late? It'll be fine, relax. So I especially don't like this because I don't like when someone tells me to relax. It does not make me relax at all. And again, this person is talking down to them, thinking like, it'll be fine, you're fine, it doesn't matter. Again, someone who truly cares about you will care about your curfew and will care that you're not in trouble. The last one, you need to send a picture of where you are at, so I know you aren't playing me. So a lot of times we see that it's normalized of in relationships to have to send pictures to your partner, or tell them exactly who you're with, just because they have trust issues, or maybe they've previously got cheated on. So they're blaming on like, oh, well, this is how I want to build my trust. And that's so false. There's other ways on how to build trust in a healthy way, without giving away your privacy and without giving away like your independence as well. You're more than welcome to have outside friends and outside hobbies outside of that relationship. And if someone is trying to be that possessive over you, then they need to be single instead of spreading that poison. So sometimes it can be difficult to not know what to say. So these are some tips. 1 second. We actually have a chat question. Have any of you heard so Saleh is asking the audience if you have heard of anyone saying these comments as well. Some ways we can respond is just being very assertive, right? Just saying no, someone should respect that. Or saying, I would rather not. No, I'm good. No, thank you. And we don't need to be polite. So sometimes, especially like girls or women, we are taught to have to feel like we have to be polite and we have to sound X, Y, and Z when we say no. Absolutely not. We can say no however we would like to, and that person should respect that. If you keep pressuring me like this, I'm just going to go home, right? So just taking yourself out of that position and that situation in general can help prevent worse things from happening. If I say I don't want to drink or smoke, then just don't offer, right? So you're saying your boundaries and you're saying, you know that I don't want to do this. So therefore, let's do this instead. Like, don't offer me, or let's leave, or I don't want to be here. I respect your boundaries and I expect the same from you, right? So this is a good way in communication if this is a healthy relationship, because you're saying that I do care about you in this way and I do respect your boundaries and I would also expect the same from you. So we're building that equity in the relationship, and that's something that's really essential in healthy friendships and healthy relationships, because you're also hearing them out too. What are their boundaries? I love spending time with you, and I also value spending time with my friends too. Again, it's just so healthy to make sure you have friends outside of the relationship and to nourish those friendships, because what happens if someone breaks up with the other person, right? And then you've already burned all your bridges with your friends. We don't want you to feel isolated or feel alone. So making sure to nourish your friendships, even if you're dating somebody else. Okay, I do want to give the content warning that right now we're going to be switching topics and Karen's going to be chatting a bit about sexual coercion. And if this is triggering for you, just be aware of how your body is feeling and how your mind is feeling, and you're able to lower down the volume or silence our voices if you need to do that, and then come back with us if you would like to.
Okay. So sexual coercion has to do with harassment and any verbal, visual, physical, sexual, or digital unwelcome behaviors that can all be sexual coercion. Someone blackmailing you, someone using threats against you, forcing you to do something against your will. Like, for example, let's just say that you are in the workplace and your boss comes up to you and say, hey, I need you to do something for me in order for you to, if you want, let's say that you're trying to get this position and the boss is telling you that you have to do them a favor, right? So the boss wants to try and touch you in order for you to get that position. So that's kind of like blackmailing. And it can also be manipulation as well. And manipulation is also using your fear, guilt, lies, intimidation to coerce someone into something.
All right, thank you so much, Karen. We're going to continue. So,
sorry.
Mhm.
I just wanted to say, if you want to, or if you feel like it, if anyone feels like it, that wants to maybe say something about if they felt like they were manipulated, harassed, or blackmailed, they can all, you can put it down on the chat if you want, if you're comfortable doing so.
And then at the end, we also have resources, national, and then if you would like more local resources, you can email me depending on where you're joining us from, to help with if someone has been, if you do feel like you've been sexually coerced in any way. Okay, would you like me to cover this one, Miss Karen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so even though we have been talking about gloomy things, it is also important to know that this doesn't mean this is what's going to happen to us in our relationships or our friendships. And so some positive things to remember is consent and enthusiastic consent. So freely given, reversible, informed, enthusiastic, and specific, right? So if you're consenting to something, it doesn't mean you're consenting to everything. That just means you're feeling comfortable to say yes to this in the present moment. It can be even, it's not always sexual. It can also be just respecting people's boundaries and friends too. Like, can I give you a hug? Or can I do, like, we can also think of, I know that sometimes when I was younger, I would be expected to like hug my uncles and aunts and give them a kiss on the cheek. And sometimes, do we always feel like doing that? No. Sometimes we want our personal space. So being able to feel like, okay, this is normal that I do want my personal space, and there's nothing wrong with me because I feel this way. So being able to have other people respect your own consent too, and respect what you're comfortable with, including friends, coworkers, romantic relationships, anything like that. So communication with your partner is key, not only to have like a healthy emotional relationship, but also key and healthy and happy any kinds of relationships, right? So it can be friendship as well. And then consent is really central to effective communication within a relationship, right? It's sharing your own needs, desires, different levels of comfort. Everyone has a different level of comfort. So just because I'm comfortable with X, Y, and Z, it doesn't mean I'm projecting my expectations onto somebody else. I'm always asking them if this is okay before assuming that it is. Consent is not flirting, right? It's not the clothes that they're wearing saying, oh, they asked for it, blah, 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 right? So that is not consent. It is not somebody under the influence. And it is not someone saying, oh, okay, I guess so. Or, oh, I don't know. Okay, sure. Right. And so there's no coercion involved in true consent. Okay, so at this time, we're gonna do some activities. So if you have your smartphone, and also I can drop the link in the chat for those of you who are already on your phone and you can't scan the QR code. Let's see, so it's way up here. Okay, so Miss Amsale, oh wait, somebody else dropped the link. So if you click on the link that was just sent in the chat box, it'll take you directly to the activity, and then you're able to put a few answers in, and then we can look at them live together. So I'm going to go to the live link right now while you are all answering. And thank you for participating too. Okay, so we are switching subjects to healthy qualities of relationships and friendships. And so as a transition, we're asking folks, what are the healthy qualities of a relationship? So our answers that we're already having is trust, communication, honesty, and respect. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a lot of like core things that have to be there. Or, you know, what else do you have, right? If there's no respect, what do you really have? If there's no trust, you know, how do you go about the next level of your relationship? If there's no communication, how do you handle conflict in a healthy way? Or how do you say when you're upset and without them being like, okay, fine, and just shutting down? Trust, loyalty. Yeah, loyalty is big too. Loyalty in the sense of not just like, oh, I know this person's not going to cheat on me, but in the sense of I can tell something to this person and I know they have my back, and I know they're not going to go to the next person and humiliate me or tell them what I just told them in privacy. Being your best. Yeah. And having that person support your best too. I think there's a good saying that's like, a partner who cares about pushing you to your best potential is like a good one to keep around, or something like, I'm like, that's way too long to be a quote. What's the actual quote? Something like someone who cares, I mean, I don't know. You get the idea though. Someone who cares about you and pushing you to out of your comfort. No, not comfort levels, because we want to be on our comfort levels in a healthy relationship. But you know what I mean. And then openness. Yeah, being open to communicating your desires and when you're upset, sharing ideas with each other, being honest. Respecting each other's boundaries. That's a good one. Not having to change who you are. Absolutely. That person is not judging you who you are or who you're not, or making you feel inadequate or like you're not good enough. That's huge. Again, if someone's like talking down to you, it's a them problem instead of a you problem. A lot of people, when they're feeling insecure, their protective mechanism is talking down to other people to make them feel better. So just keeping that in mind is that even if someone is talking down to you, it's a their problem instead of you. Cares about your interests. Yeah, because it has to be fun, right? You want a fun relationship, a fun friendship with people. You surround yourself with them for a reason, right? Okay. Awesome. These are really good answers. Thank you for participating. We have a new one. Unified. Yeah. Feeling unified with that person, right? And in an argument, it doesn't feel like it's one against the other. It feels like y'all are both like trying to come together to find a solution instead of just one person against the other person. That makes a huge difference. Awesome. This is really great. So I'm going to continue so we can look at the rest of our presentation. And thank you for those answers. Similar to our answers that we already shared, right? We're already on it. So respect, trust, equity, feeling safe in a relationship, and independence, right? We talked about in social gatherings how like if someone's like, oh, I drive more focused when after I smoke. Do you want me to drive like a crazy person? Again, they're going against the safety part. That person should always make you feel safe, and secure, to the point where you're not feeling anxiousness, or they're not driving wild with you in the vehicle, or they're not saying like, you don't need a seatbelt, right? So making sure that you're feeling safe with them. Respecting your curfew. We kind of talked a little bit of an example for that. Respecting your boundaries, respecting what you like, what you dislike, respecting what you do not feel comfortable with doing, and not feeling like you have to have a whole essay on why you need to prove why you don't feel comfortable doing something. And trust with communication, sharing thoughts with each other. We already talked a lot about that in the MENTI activity. So equity, making sure like if you're saying what you want, they're also being heard too. So it's going both ways, and making sure that if someone is hurting or struggling, that you're giving more attention to them in that moment versus saying like, well, why are you struggling? Because I just got an F on my paper. But then if something is really bothering them or their family member or something like that, making sure to know when to nourish them a little bit extra in times of struggle. Safety, we talked about that. Independence, right? We talked about how important it is to have friends and hobbies outside of that relationship, and feeling independent, feeling like yourself, feeling like you can go and hang out with your friends. You don't have to ask permission, especially in like our younger relationships. That should not be who's responsible for our safety when we're young? Our legal guardians, right? Not our romantic partner or even our friends, because friends can be possessive too. Okay. All right, so we're going to watch a quick video on boundaries, and then we have a few more slides, and we're going to wrap up our time together. So this has been a really good time together so far, and I hope you enjoyed the video on healthy boundaries. I want to make sure that I'm sharing my audio as well. Okay, perfect.
On paper, boundary setting seems easy. Just say what you want and don't want. That's all there is, right? Well, boundaries tend to get much more complicated in the real world. Saying what we don't want isn't always easy, and following through on our own rules can feel like an impossible task. So how can we realistically set and stick to healthy boundaries? Well, we can start by knowing our wants, fears, and limits. This may sound simple, but how often do we really list out what we expect from a relationship? If you find yourself at a loss for what you need, think back on a past relationship and consider what made it feel safe and supportive, or what made it scary and dangerous. Looking at these patterns can clue you in on what you need and what your limits are, making it easier to express these boundaries to a partner. Communicating our boundaries is step 2 of this process. This one can be one of the scariest parts of a new relationship, but it's important to not let fear of judgment or conflict keep us from saying what we want or don't want. Be clear and direct about your needs, fears, and limits, and be as specific as you can. Whether it's calling every Sunday, kissing goodbye, or never sharing social media accounts, your boundaries are yours to express and enforce. Of course, those boundaries are meaningless if we don't enforce them. In any relationship, boundaries will be tested. Whether it's by mistake or intentional, point out when someone is crossing the boundaries you've put in place. Explain how it makes you feel when those rules are ignored. And if the other person is respecting your boundaries, express your appreciation. While boundaries are important, they may not be set in stone. Just as people grow and change, their boundaries will too. People may grow more or less comfortable with things as a relationship progresses, but remember, it is their choice to make. If someone is pressured into doing something outside their boundaries, their feelings and comfort aren't being taken into account. Healthy relationships shift and change, but respecting each other's boundaries should always be a given. For more content about healthy boundaries, visit guilfordhri.org or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, so something that I'm taking away from the video is that boundaries can fluctuate, right? Just because you said, I don't feel comfortable doing A, B, and C, or that you do feel comfortable doing A, B, and C, does not mean you can change those, right? So you can absolutely change those. And then someone who may be manipulative maybe would use the scapegoat of saying like, oh, but you said you were comfortable about it before, so what changed? Blah, blah, blah. And then trying to put that guilt and shame upon that person. But just to remember that boundaries can fluctuate and boundaries can change. And that's very, very, very normal. So let's just normalize that. Let's see. A lot of times too is like, what do we do if boundaries are disrespected? And so communicating your boundaries, you can use I statements. So again, everyone's boundaries are different. So a tool that I recommend and that I always need to work on is explaining your feelings and explaining why you don't like or why you want to have this specific boundary, right? And it doesn't mean that someone can nitpick that explanation. That just means you're communicating your feelings as to why you don't want to do something. But it's different if someone is trying to be coercive to you. That's when you do not have to explain anything, right? Obviously, that's somebody trying to put that manipulation in the situation and on you and guilt you for feeling a certain way. Yeah, so Saleh is sharing like using I feel statements. That can be very powerful because you're just explaining your own feelings first, especially when you have a hurt feelings or something happened in the relationship where it doesn't feel good for you or you got upset at something. And then you're trying to have this explanation of what you felt in that moment. Using I feel statements can be super, super powerful. Really good tool. Anyone else wanting to share thoughts on how you communicate your boundaries? Everyone can be different on how they communicate their boundaries too.
I also wanted to say too that, you want to identify your limits to boundaries. And you also want to be direct with whoever you're setting your boundaries with. You can start from small, and then from the small, you go to the larger parts of the boundaries. So you can also do that. Be assertive.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. I really appreciate that input. Yeah, being assertive and not being apologetic about it, right? Being able to say what you feel without thinking, oh no, like now I feel bad, or thinking negative about how you worded something.
Right.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome. There's ways of saying it, I know sometimes people get upset and they comes out the wrong way, but there's ways of doing it the right way. but then there's others that don't understand it either. So
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah. And that can happen at any age, at any point of our lives, right? Not
yes,
just
yes,
teenagers.
no,
And Brianna is sharing like, and if they're in an argument with somebody, they like to cool off before making any strong statements. Oh, that's a really good one, Brianna, because like in the moment you want to feel like you want to make them hurt, right? And we've all been there where you're like, oh no, they did not just say that. I know how to really hurt their feelings, and you want to like reply back to them in a very negative, hurtful way. And so it doesn't mean you're a bad person for thinking that, but you can change your behaviors of thinking like, okay, I'm going to bite my tongue and I'm going to keep this in. I'm going to let 5 minutes go by, or I'm just going to get fresh air, go outside, walk, get some sunshine, and I'm going to see how I feel afterwards. And that's hard to do, right? But it can be a learned behavior. Once you start doing it and continuing that, you can switch it around and then you're like, wow, I can solve these conflicts. You know, I was just super upset in the moment, but if I do some coping mechanisms, then we can do this, right? So thank you, Brianna, for sharing. Alrighty, anybody else? Okay, we have another activity. So if y'all would like to get your phones out and scan the QR code, or again, there'll be a link dropped in the chat where you can participate. So the link that was just sent, you're able to click on it and it'll take you directly to the activity where you can participate and we can see everyone's answers. This one's a bit different. So it's not a word cloud. It's a red light, green light. So I'll just pull it up right here. All right, so we do talk a lot about red flags, but there's also green flags in relationships and friendships too, right? So if you're selecting red, you're saying, oh no, I do not like this. This does not make me feel comfortable. If you're selecting yellow, like, oh, okay, that's okay, but it could get better. If you're selecting green, this is like, oh, this is such a good green flag and it makes me feel safe, heard, listened to, and valued. And so this is our results so far. So we so far have 3 participants who have selected. So 2 of them selected, okay, I like this and I would love for this to happen, right? So asking if that person feels comfortable at a social setting before entering, right? So that's pretty affirmative and safe if someone's asking you, you know, going out of their way to saying like, hey, you good? Or is there anything I can do for you? Or I love when you go over to someone's house and you can tell they're just such a good host. They always make you feel comfortable. They always ask you if you need like water or something to eat or anything. And right, so that's what I'm connecting it to. But there can be other examples where you could think of like, oh, that was a green light for me when that person made me feel safe and secure and like I'm having a fun time. So far there's 4 people and then 1 person answered yellow. Maybe the yellow one is like, no, I want a red carpet rolled out in front of me instead, right? Or just a different way, right? A different way of how they can feel safe too. Everyone's different. So okay, so then the next one is gonna be if they respect your curfew, right? So all 4 of us looks like we selected green. That's a green light. If they're respecting your curfew, right? We don't want to get in trouble. And who's going to be the one getting in trouble, right? It's going to be us instead of the person who pressured us on just staying out another hour. So it's just easy for everybody if we just get there on time and respect our legal guardians' rules. And then maybe we can even go out the next time or whatever because they seem like we've been respecting their curfew, we've been respecting their rules. So we get some more loose time to be able to go out and have any kind of hobbies or seeing our friends. Saleh is saying you can answer each question in the chat as well. Yes, if you don't feel like going and clicking the link, you can always participate through the chat too. We can see that still. All right, so 6 folks are saying, yeah, that's a green flag for me. This winter air is making my throat so dry. Okay. Yeah, 7. So 7 people are selecting green. All right, so. Okay, so going back to the workshop, thank you for participating in. I love that. That one's one of my favorite activities in Menti. It's just simple, it's to the point. And I like that the other folks can see it on their side, and so we're good to go. So thank you for participating, and then keep an eye out for on our social media for the results of those answers. We won't share the results in the commentary, obviously, because that can be private, but the results from the answers of the Mentimeters on our Instagram and or Facebook. And so for our last couple slides, Karen, do you want to share anything of what kind of takeaways that you hope they have?
Yes, again, thank you guys for coming. I hope that they were able to understand it better and they're able to open up a little bit more. And if they want to either get in touch with me, they can always email me with any questions, or any of us with any questions, and I'll be more than happy to help. But hopefully this did help, and it did open up some of your minds.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, and then if anyone else wants to share kind of what they've learned or what they're like thinking about now on their mind of when they're forming healthy relationships or healthy friendships, if you have any advice for your peers, because we always learn from each other, right? It's not always just us teaching you. I'm always learning every day, and I'm always learning from you all too. So just sharing your 2 takeaways in the chat box. Yeah, thank you, Kimberly. So just making sure, knowing how to realize what green and red flags are in both relationships and friendships. Yeah, absolutely. Being able to see the difference with green and yeah, thank you, Larissa. Yeah, and Kimberly. We're glad to have you both on here. And then don't leave yet, because it's not the end yet. So we have really cool opportunities ahead for you. So if you would like to be a part of this workshop, right? So this workshop is not just meant for us to do. We can always host workshops for you to host yourself on topics that you care about. You can become a teen influencer. And being part of our teen influencer group means that you can develop leadership skills, you can learn from other teens around you, or you can teach other teens and be a leader as well. You can add this to your resume. Resume building is huge. I wish someone sat me down when I was younger and taught me how much it is important to get volunteer experience once you're in high school. It really makes a difference to have some more content on your resume. And then we can also help with a letter of recommendation if you're looking at any kind of careers in the future or colleges. It really looks good on college applications as well. So just a lot of reasons why you would want to join the Teen Influencer group. We would love to have you. And you can scan the QR code on the screen, or there's also the link that was just dropped in the chat where it'll take you directly to the interest form. And then one of our MAD staff, one of the MAD staff members will be able to be in contact with you depending on your region. So mine is Coastal County, so I would love to have more teenagers in mine. We're starting from the ground up. And then let's see, there's many opportunities to focus on things that you care about, right? So it's not just preventing drunk driving. It can also be traffic safety. It can also be tips on how to, apply for colleges. It can be mental health support. What's healthy coping mechanisms? It's also really good experience for people who may be interested in working with any career really, but also with law enforcement or mental health support services or social work. There's just so many different avenues you can apply this experience to. So we would love to have you. And then if you didn't get the QR code, the link is still in the chat and it will not disappear. You can still click the link to fill out the interest form. Some resources, we talked to some about a little bit of heavy topics. So some resources you can reach out to are Teen Line, Teens Helping Teens. It's actually a teenager who can respond to you. They're trained in being trauma informed and being able to respond to you live. So that's super cool. And it's less intimidating, you know, to reach out to an adult, a professional adult. Ideally, we would want you to be in contact with a safe adult that you trust. But if you're not there yet in that space, you're able to use that resource, Teen Line, Teens Helping Teens. There's also SAMHSA, so Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, if you're coping with someone who has an addiction, or if you yourself are showing addictive behaviors. Or even just extra support for mental health services. We all need that, right? And then loveisrespect.org is one of my favorite resources for teen dating violence prevention, because it doesn't just talk about negative things about, like, you know, toxic relationships. It really empowers you to, like, oh, how else can you improve your relationship, right? So it goes the next mile of, if you're in this situation, this is what we can do to help improve, you know, what's already going on. And then they also have different options for you to chat. You can chat confidentially, or you can text them on your own phone, or you can call them if you do feel comfortable being on the phone with that person. But someone may have different preferences of you just chatting or just texting. And then depending on where you're joining us from, you can always call 211, and that will take you to the direct local resources. So for example, I'm located in Ventura County. So if someone in Ventura County would be calling 211, they would be in contact with someone who can help them on a county level, right? So if you're in San Bernardino County and you're calling 211, you wouldn't be connected to Ventura County. You would be connected to the San Bernardino County resources. So that's just a little bit of background on that. And let's see, I think that is what we have for you. So if Karen has any last words, we really thank you and appreciate you for joining and taking the time out of your Monday night. Happy Galentine's Day. And these are our emails if you would like to be in contact with either of us. We really appreciate that you took the time to come and join us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And hopefully this did help.
Yes, and our emails are in the chat as well. So those are set. And then, yeah, so thank you for joining us, and I'll go ahead and end the webinar right now, unless anyone has questions or answers, but feel free to reach out to us on our email addresses as well. So hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday night.